Hello, everyone, and welcome to another explosive episode of C4 Creative Comedic Conversations with Christians. I am your upbeat host, Ross Green, and today I am kicking it with two of my fellow stick slinging compatriots, Devonta Alridge and Don Mason. Fellas, welcome to the show. How are y'all doing today?
Thank you, and fine.
Thanks for having us, man. Doing pretty good.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Well, let's jump right into it. Y'all ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, I feel like a good place to start is with your origin story. So tell me, what got the beat started in you? What made you want to start playing drums? Let's start with Devonta.
Okay. I think it was in March of 2017 when we had just came back from Winterfest, and we was in the youth room, and I believe the song that was playing was "Scars to You're Beautiful." I think that's what it was, and I just so happened to hop up on the drums and was messing around with it, and then I believe I asked you, I was like, Ross, you want to teach the drums one day? And you was like, sure. But I've always had that passion for it, so.
How about you?
Mine goes back a little further.
A little?
As I sit here, I'm actually 65 years old. A long time ago, when I was 9 years old, my uncle called the house and he asked to speak to me. And so I went to the phone and he says, you ever been to a concert? And I was like, no. He says, how would you like to go to one? So I asked him, who's playing? He said, James Brown. Oh. And I told him I'd love to go.
The legend.
So he got me tickets and he took his two daughters and me. And we went to the Jacksonville Coliseum, and it was that Friday night. And I was totally drawn by this live drummer that played for the James Brown band. And I knew I wanted to play drums right then.
I mean, if there's going to be a drummer you're drawn to, it would definitely be the one playing for James Brown's band.
He had a very, what they call at that time, funky beat. But to me, it had a constant walk. And one of the things that James Brown always says is there's a little of him in everybody's music. And I felt that way about percussion once I learned how to play the drums, that I always referred back to this, that I heard this drummer do at that first concert I went to.
That's really awesome. I know for me, personally, like, because I guess I can answer the question as well. When I was learning how to, like, what really made me want to play drums is I remember my cousin Cameron. He played drums because my aunt and uncle raised all their kids to be musical, and so his thing was playing drums because, like, he was like, I don't want to be a singer and just want to be in the back doing my thing. And so, like, I just watched the way he would, like, just fly across a drum kit, and I was just like, that's super cool. So one day he was working with me and my stepdad, and I asked him to teach me a little bit, and he taught me like a simple like 4 count. Like, he just taught me like a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I kind of just, that was about all I knew how to do. And then one day I was upstairs, and I was just sort of jumped on the drum kit up in the youth room, and Pastor Brad, who was the youth pastor at the time, he saw that I was that I could keep the 4 count, and he was like, "Hey, you want to play drums?" And I was like, "Sure." And that was it. And then from there, it just sort of took off. I also know for me a big inspiration. I remember when I was younger, we went and saw Mannheim Steamroller. Now they, for those who don't know who Mannheim Steamroller is, they're the people that around Christmas time, you walk in a store, you're going to hear the music playing. So we went and saw him, and I just remember watching this drummer up there, and he was getting it. I mean, like, he was flying all over that set. He was doing things I ain't ever even seen before, and I was just like, okay, that's it. I'm going to learn how to play drums and be real about it. So that's sort of how I got into it. And you had mentioned that the James Brown drummer was sort of someone who got you into playing drums. Devonta, do you have like a particular drummer from any band?
Yes.
All right. Who is it?
You ever seen Planet Shakers?
Yeah.
You know, Andy Harrison?
Yeah.
That's my that right there. That
Yeah.
guy's phenomenal.
He really is. Especially when you listen to the Planet Shakers songs, and it's like, I'm like, how is he playing that fast? guess. I just don't know. Uh, all right, so now as drummers, we all have songs we really enjoy playing, right? But personally, I'm not very interested in the things you enjoy playing. I want to know what songs just aggravate you to no end. Like, what song do you just like sit there and you're like, I really don't want to play this song, but I know I have to play it.
That question is a good one because it's actually the same place in my career, if you will, as a drummer that changed me because I no longer consider myself a drummer. I've seen many of what I call good drummers, and I'm unable to do what they do, not as a result of what they're physically doing, but the mentality of it. Going back to listening to stuff that I don't want to play that, or that doesn't sound right, or why isn't there a drum part or something like that. I started realizing that every song, regardless of whether they had any drums in there, had syncopation to it. And I looked into syncopation and started realizing that that's exactly what drew me even to the James Brown, through the James Brown drummer. It's syncopation. And I started listening to different songs that didn't have any drums, and thinking to myself, if somebody said add drums to that, what would you do? And there were a lot of songs that the drums wouldn't sound right, but something to continue the syncopation would. And so ultimately, I turned to what I consider myself to be, and that's a percussionist. I get into the wind chimes, the wood blocks, congos, timbales, and if you had all of it there, for example, a couple of weeks ago, the main singer in the praise team did a song that was more of a ballad, the style we did it, and I was missing 5, 6, 7 different things that I could have used that day to really enhance and lift her up. But they weren't there. All I had was drums, and so I just stayed out of the song and just used a little cymbal swells and things like that. So as far as music goes that I don't like to play, I'm no longer like that. I love to play all kind of music, and if I'm going to do anything with drums in mind, it's percussion oriented, and so I can add to music and enhance it and lift up whatever the music's designed to, especially praise music.
It's funny you said that because we actually did the song this morning. Mm-hmm. So it was actually Glorious. The first time I actually played Glorious, it was really hard for me to transition like you do. So I love playing it now because I can actually do it. But at the time, I was really struggling. So I say that would be like one of the one songs I don't like playing back then.
It's funny because I feel like I remember the time you told me, because I remember when I started playing up here, you told me that what you really try to do is not necessarily, play like they do on the track or something like that, but really your job is to sort of just amplify the vocals and put the vocals first, because really in a worship song, that's the words are what everybody's there for. And I remember that when you told me that, it really was like a reversal in my head, right? Because I had, as anyone who plays drums have all these thoughts, like, what would be really good in this part right here? A drum solo. Every song needs one of those.
Not every song.
And then I remember whenever you told me that, it really changed my mind about it. But the funny thing is, though, is I do have like that thing like you, where it's like at first there's a song and I'm just like, I really was just, I was not like
awful.
It's not even like awful. I just was like, my big problem is that sometimes I have problems controlling myself. Like sometimes I get a little too into it, and there's a particular song I can't even. I hate that I can't remember it.
How's it go?
I can't. All I know is the way I play it is like basically all I do is go like I just hit. I don't even hit a cymbal really the whole song unless like there's like a time for like a right there or something. But like all I do the whole song is like I sit there and go doom 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 ka doom 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 ka, like that's it, like the whole song. And I remember it because it was like the only, like when we were trying to figure out how to play it upstairs in the youth room, And I remember my problem is like I would hit it too hard, but then they were like, okay, we need you to still hit it hard because it's important to feel the drums. And I was just like, listen, guys, okay, either I'm about to break the thing or I'm not hitting it very well. And so it took me a long time to get into that middle range where I can hit it just hard enough to where it doesn't seem like I'm about to break the drum kit, but also at the same time get that emphasis and oomph on it like I'm supposed to. So I get your story, and I really appreciate that piece of advice you gave me. Yeah. So moving on to the next question. Now this is just more for like a question for me. Have y'all got the same problem I have that whenever you hear a song, you try to pick out the drum part and how to play it? Or is that just me? Because it's like every song I hear on the radio, it's like I can't even like get into the lyrics or like be like, oh wow, that piano player's doing real good. No, I'm just listening for the drums the whole time.
All the time.
All the time?
All the time.
Yeah.
See, I'm more of a instrumental kind of person. I don't really care much for the vocals or anything because I like to feel the beat or something like that. I'm not really. I like trying to figure out what goes where. So.
Yeah.
For me, a lot of songs like and it is not so much praise music; it's just music in general. You, as a person that plays drums, you instantly start listening to whatever they're doing with that instrument. For me, it's always been, why didn't he or she or whoever's playing those things do this? Because to me, I felt like that was missing or should have been there instead of. But then I dismissed my thoughts because I realized it's not the drums that I was feeling; it was percussion. And a lot of people say, "Well, what's the difference?" It's a blend of instruments that would be percussion instruments for me that weren't there. So I find myself when I listen to music like that, and especially praise music, wishing that there was something else or something in addition to what was done put in there to lift up the reason for the praise song, especially the words that are being put forth to praise the Lord.
Yeah, and I think that's a great mindset to have is instead of looking at yourself as a drummer, because, I mean, yes, obviously we play a drum kit, but start looking at yourself as a percussionist, which is funny because it takes me back to that memory of going to that Mannheim Steamroller concert. Because I remember, if you've ever listened to a Mannheim Steamroller song, they have some seriously interesting percussion. And so I remember, I thought it was so weird that they had the drummer on the kit, and then they had this guy over here who was doing the stuff that I always thought drummers did, like the wind chimes and the like playing like some bongos or a wood block or something like that. And I realized later on, like, if he wasn't there, there would be parts of that song that just would not work with just the band, because that's the thing that takes you into Christmas time is the fact that he's over there with jingle bells playing those things. So it's like you have to have that mindset because while a drummer keeps the song going, a percussionist takes you to where the song's trying to get you to, I feel like. So, okay. Now, we as drummers, we've all had been playing for a while, and part of playing occasionally is that you mess up, you do something you weren't supposed to do. So, what is an embarrassing drumming story? Like, what is the most embarrassing thing that has happened while playing for y'all?
For me, since actually I was away from drums for 40 years. You remember, I'm 65. So my early career at drums was kind of wild. I wasn't saved at the time, and that's a different story. But it is how I learned to play that particular instrument, a drum kit. But since I've been saved, I was away from drums for over 40 years, and I was petitioned by people here at my church home to play because they had some difficulties keeping drummers at that time, and I came forward, and I ended up having to pray about it because now at the age of 65, of course, I've been playing again now for about 8 years, so I guess I was 8 years younger then. But I was concerned about things like arthritis and what have you, and that I hadn't played in a long time, and whether I could even hold the sticks. And one of the people here at the church told me, "Well, it's like riding a bicycle." I was like, "No, it's not."
No.
At all.
Well, sure enough, it started coming back, and I prayed about it. And that's something that I'll tell anybody. You need to pray about things like that. And you do. But I prayed about it, and God gave it back to me a little at a time. And I listened to the music and what have you. And my biggest experience in the past was I played with 2 different top 40 bands. The biggest one had 11 members in it. And we played every Friday and Saturday night on this, what they called a circuit. It was a beach circuit. Yeah, but anyway, we even got to do some work in a recording studio, and we found ourselves trying to replicate the top 40 songs that were out at the time. Because when people go to places like that and they're drinking and all the other worldly things, and they ask to hear a favorite song, they're expecting to hear it just like it is on the record. So you learned to replicate stuff like that. And so that's how I really learned it in my experience and what have you. But coming back into it after being saved and learning to play praise music and praying about it, God gave it back to me a little at a time because I didn't know if I could play it or not. So the most embarrassing thing for me really wasn't embarrassing because I really anticipated it. And that's while you're playing, have a stick fly out of my hand and almost hit somebody in the hand. I remember that. And that's happened about 10 times. So it's no longer embarrassing because I'm playing for God. And I didn't miss a beat. I grabbed another stick and kept rolling.
There you go.
But that's my experience is losing a stick. I've now found a solution to that as I wear some of my old golf gloves. I quit playing golf, but I've got a bunch of gloves from when I used to play. Yeah. So I put those on, and that helps me hold on to the sticks.
Me, on the other hand, I think it was one time, it was a Sunday morning, and I was playing the drums, and the kick actually broke. But at the time,
I didn't have a key either. I was sitting right out there.
But at the time, it was a double kick. So luckily, I was gifted enough to play with my left foot and not be able to use the hi-hat. So, and then have Pastor Brad actually come up and fix it mid-experience. Yeah. So that was really embarrassing because I thought I had did it. So
I think, gosh, that's crazy. I'm trying to picture like how that went down.
It wasn't pretty.
It probably wasn't. I could see that. I know for me personally, like as you use, especially since our church uses electronic drums, I got used to playing on an electronic kit. So I think the weirdest time for me was whenever the youth band went somewhere and they had an acoustic set. But it was majorly out of tune. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
Major.
Because I remember you played that night too. And I was sitting there thinking the whole time, I was like, one, it had like a star setup.
Something, right.
And two, it just sounded really bad. Like I'm so glad I don't remember the name of this church because I probably would have accidentally said it or something. But it was just not good. Like that's the only way to describe it. And so I mean, I think for me, trying to figure out how to use an acoustic set, because like it's so different. It really like like these electronic kits, they do a lot of the work for you. Yeah. Because with the acoustic set, it's just like you have to really hit things the right way, and you have to get up there and really try and do your best to make it sound as good as you can, and really be on your A game. Whereas the electronic kit can fill in a lot of the gap for you. So I think for me, just I don't know if I feel necessarily embarrassed by that, but I find that to be like probably the most embarrassing like situation I've ever been in was having to deal with that kit and also adjust to it. Right. But yeah, I mean, like that's just the nature of being an instrumentalist. No matter what instrument you play, there are gonna be times where like Caleb slips up on the keys, or Will and Hudson are back there fiddling with a pedal board and miss a part or something.
This morning,
Eric gets way too soulful and he looks like he's about to poop himself. But
Eric is a very talented.
he's a very,
Very,
talented
very.
musician. Love that guy. I remember one morning, my parents were watching online while we were still not able to come to church, and I got them to actually listen to the worship. And my mom, she turns to me and she goes, the worship sounds good, but that saxophone's just changing the sound of worship. And I just was sitting there thinking, like, I mean, she's not wrong.
Yeah.
She's not. I would say something about the bass, but like, I mean, I already made fun of Jacob pretty well whenever I interviewed him.
Oh, did
So I'll leave that be. But
That's another video.
that's another video that y'all should go watch. Anyways, little interplug. So people see us playing and go, wow, that's cool. But what is like a funny thing about playing drums that people would not be able to understand?
You got to have a lot of leg strength because it's really tiring after you play like a really fast song and then you got another fast song after that. Then you have a break in between messages, like in between like the tithe and offering and all that. But after that, it's you really got to have like stamina to do it. So.
And I fixed my only real problem, and that was I get hot.
Mm-hmm.
So I brought
You
a
got that
fan,
fan, yeah.
and I got that thing on and blowing right at me the whole time.
Yeah, I think for me, a funny thing that people don't understand is really, if you think about it, like, yeah, it's what we do is pretty cool. It is really cool. But like initially, it's just hitting things at the right time, just being good at just hitting something. Because if you think about it, I've been able to sit down with like a child over there and teach them how to do a 4 count, right? And if you think about it, how many songs use a 4 count? How many songs use just the basic, like people? I don't think people understand like how repetitive sometimes it feels. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of drumming out there now, a lot of percussion going on out there now. Really cool, because especially in the world of worship, and so it allows us to do a lot of cool things on Sunday mornings. Let's be honest, there's a certain generation of worship songs where it didn't, but now we're doing a lot of more interesting things on Sundays and really having to step up our game a lot. So I think it's really just, like a mixture of everything y'all were saying. Yeah, it's really difficult. Also, I think how funny it is, how hard it was at the beginning.
Oh my goodness.
And how much easier it is now. Because I remember, for instance, Eddie James, when we used to play Freedom, right? I remember the first time we played it at the pace Eddie James played it at, we were up in the youth room. And this was back when we had the drums. It was like on the center high rise, and it was way up there. And like I could touch the ceiling whenever I was playing drums. And I remember when we played it, I was wearing a headband at the time because I thought wearing a headband on Wednesday night made me cool or something. But
I used to do it too.
Yeah. And then I was playing, and by the end of the song, literally the whole song, my seat was just doing this number right here, just going backwards. And so by the end of the song, I just collapsed against the wall. And I'm just like,
That's a fast song.
There was no AC up there either.
There is no, not a good AC. I mean, but so I think that's some things people wouldn't understand.
Oh yeah, you got to sweat a lot too.
Yeah. Like, drink water if you're going to be a drummer.
So if you don't like sweating, don't drum.
Yeah. Or if you're just a human being, drink water. That's a good piece of advice for all the kids watching at home. Well, be honest with you fellas, that's it. That is it. Thanks so much for crashing with me. It's been a wonderful ride, and a special tip of the hi-hat to everyone listening / watching. I pray that your lives explode with joy and laughter, just like C4. Have a wonderful day. God bless.
All right.